Today you are a rounded logistics professional, but I'm sure everybody will be keen to know.
Younger days I spent with my grandmother. So Alleppey is my hometown. In Chennai, did my schooling here, then did my graduation in Loyola College.
Parents coming from, your father coming from government service.
In a big way, my father was an inspiration, right? Because I've seen him closely working on the government side.
So straight from Chennai, completed your academics and straight to Dubai, like every other Mallu does.
But I never planned for it. I think typically Mallus have an aspiration to go there. I never aspired.
What was your role as a fresher into the industry?
You establishing yourself as a brand, as an individual. What is your credibility? What is that you bring to the table?
So how was your journey with IIL? For how long?
It's a beautiful journey. Yeah, that's the journey which made me.
Good morning. Today I'm privileged to bring you a guest. He's very widely known and popular in the industry, one of the senior persons, and his name is Mr. Vipin Shankar. He's almost spent about 3 decades, and we'll try and get the insights from him, not only on logistics and shipping, but about life also. Vipin, good morning and welcome.
Morning, PK.
Coming for this podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure.
It's a new job role I've taken to be a part-time podcast. Just for the benefit of the viewers and audience, today you're a rounded logistics professional, but I'm sure everybody will be keen to know something about your childhood, your parents, from where you hail from, your background. You can enlighten us.
Okay, thanks for asking that. I think it's a very interesting question. You don't get asked that question very often, but yeah, I'm originally from Kerala. So I was pretty much of my younger days I spent with my grandmother. So Alleppey is my hometown.
I heard as Palakkad, you're some kind
Alleppey is my hometown, and I kind of grew up there. And then of course my schooling initially I spent some time in Trivandrum. My dad always had a government job, so he worked in a government job. And around 91, 92 is when we came to Chennai.
Trivandrum means Air Force?
No, he was in a different department. He was in civil aviation security. So 91. He took a deputation from his parent department. He came to this newly formed department in Chennai. And since 91, I have been in Chennai, did my schooling here, then did my graduation in Loyola College. So, and then I did my MBA in LIBA, Loyola Institute of Business Administration. So, so I think those 5 years in Loyola, and of course, prior to that, while schooling in Chennai. So, I mean, more than somebody from Kerala, you can call me a Chennai.
Totally Indian. No, we can't. Indian. Total Bharatiya.
Yeah.
No. And your graduation, you graduated in?
I graduated in Loyola. I'm basically a physics graduate.
Oh, physics graduate. So you have a science background.
I have a science background, and then went on to do my MBA. And even in MBA, I did a dual specialization in marketing and HR.
So we all know that you have almost done about 3 decades in shipping industry, but parents coming from, your father coming from government service, what made you to choose a private sector? You never had that aspirations to get back to government?
I did, and in fact, in a big way, my father was an inspiration, right? Because I've seen him closely working on the government side. I did want to get into the government side of things, and of course, there was at some point my dad did motivate me to get into civil services. But for whatever reasons, I ended up choosing the typical path, I should say, which is to do a graduation. MBA was a big thing those days, so I did went into MBA, and I would say as long as you are contributing back to the world and the society in some way or the other, I feel sometimes when you're on the government side, you can do that better. But even if you're on the private sector, I think as long as you have a passion to do something just beyond your professional life, I think that is possible.
Any siblings?
No, I'm the only child.
So you had all the attention for yourself.
Yeah.
That's good. So how did it happen is it that your first job was into logistics and shipping, or you started elsewhere, and how did your entry into the industry?
Yeah, more or less you can say my first job was in shipping and logistics, right? It's a sector which has always fascinated me because I grew up in and around the Chennai airport. So my dad was in aviation. Right?
Okay.
So I've seen aircrafts, I've always had an interest towards flying aircrafts. At some point, I thought I'll become a pilot maybe.
Air cargo complex.
Air cargo and all that I've seen from my childhood day, So I was very passionate about that. And of course, on the ocean side of things, I never got experience. But when I finished my MBA, One of the placement which came to our campus was P&O Nedloyd in those days.
Oh,
Very
P&O
prestigious company.
Yeah.
Used to take management trainees, but for some reason I didn't get picked up in campus.
Okay.
But then that always stayed in my mind that I kind of wanted to get into logistics and all that. So when an opportunity presented, my first company was Freight Systems in Dubai.
Oh,
I got recruited directly to the Dubai, to their head office in a corporate sales position. That's how my journey started way back in 2001 after I finished my MBA.
Okay.
That's when I kind of joined Freight Systems in Dubai that was my first job, and it was in logistics. So it just
in fact, you mentioned about P&O. When I joined DP World Terminal, previously it was called P&O Ports and Terminals. P&O people first took over, and then so straight from Chennai, completed your academics and straight to Dubai, like every other Mallu does it. Just starting like that.
Yeah, you can say like that, like how every Mallu does it, but I never planned for it. I think typically Mallus have an aspiration to go there. I never aspired, but it happened, and I liked the interview. I liked the boss, whom I met, Warren Jacobs. I should mention him.
Okay.
He's instrumental in getting me into the industry. Right, he was a country manager in Freight Systems in Dubai. Of course, then when I went there, David Phillips, who is the founder and promoter of Freight Systems.
So Freight Systems was not an Indian organization.
No. Freight Systems was very much a Dubai-based company.
Dubai-based.
Yeah, it was promoted by one of the promoters is an Indian, Mr. David Phillips. I had the privilege of seeing David. I've not worked with him directly, but David used to be very hands-on even in those days. But we were a young bunch of sales guys from India who were reporting directly to the country manager. And Warren was a great boss. He was there. So yeah, those initial, I think, 2 years straight to Dubai, it was like.
What was your role as a fresher into the industry?
So I was in sales,
Pure sales.
pure sales, and of course Dubai is a very different market. In a way, it's a very interesting. At least in those days, it used to be a very cosmopolitan market, I would say, because you go to every other company, you'll see an Indian, you'll see an American, you'll see a European. It's a mixed crowd. So you initially, how do you kind of make a cold call? Although you're driving a car and you're wearing a suit, but how Dubai is hot.
It's very
times. At times its weather is okay, but then you're still doing. But at the end of the day, you're still doing a cold call, right? So I've done a lot of cold calls in Dubai. So the area was split between 3-4 of us.
So you were there about
2 years.
2 years. What brought you back to Chennai?
Honestly speaking, I think I was always with my family.
Oh.
I always stayed with family, studied with my parents. I grew up. So after spending 2 years, two things happened. One is I got an opportunity with another company in Dubai called IIL Logistics. So when I joined them after 2 years, they had an opening in Chennai. So it was related to project cargo and things like that. So then when they asked me, since you are from Chennai, are you interested? I said, why not go back to India?
Get some nice home food, etc.
Absolutely.
So once the second organization, IIL,
Second organization was IIL.
they were into what?
They were also
Box?
into forwarding. They had their
cargo.
own boxes. They had some NVOCC operations.
Oh.
So that's the time they had bought newly around 1,000 containers for project cargo
Oh.
into India. There are a lot of projects happening in India. They were looking at somebody to look at key account management and things like that. So I kind of joined them in Dubai and I moved back to.
So how was your journey with IIL? For how long you've been?
Very short period, I would say. IIL was not a big tenure for various reasons, so I would have spent less than a year.
Oh, that's it.
I was based in Chennai, but I was looking after the key account management, very initial stages of the company. Again, I had the privilege of working with another erstwhile promoter. He's no more, Mr. Narayan Kuti, very, very well known person. Basically, a banker who turned into a logistician, right? So he was from the State Bank of India.
Oh.
But I had a very short tenure in IIL.
So after IIL,
After IIL is the Big Blue, with whom I sailed for like 20 years of my
APL?
APL, of course, yes. So APL Logistics happened in 2004. I was interviewed for the role of a business development. That was a very early and initial stages of APL Logistics. So they were just setting up they were primarily a consolidation company, but then they were looking at expanding into freight forwarding, transportation, supply chain management and things like that. So I was one of the first batches of business development people who joined in. So I joined to take care of business development for South.
so this APL Logistics those days was it with the NOL or without NOL?
It was with NOL.
With
Yeah.
NOL.
So when I
APL
joined,
NOL something like that.
no, it was. See, in '97 is when NOL took over APL Group.
NOL took over
Took over APL Group.
Achha,
Those days, APL Logistics used to be called as ACS, American Consolidation Service.
Not
That used to
American
be
President Lines. APL.
no. So APL used to be there.
Achha.
APL Liner used to be there. The logistics side used to be called as American Consolidation
Oh.
Services. And in 2000, I think it got rechristened as APL Logistics. And in 2004 is when I
So NOL was a holding company actually.
yeah, NOL, I mean, I think that takeover is perhaps, it's a history in a sense, right? Because NOL took over a company which was 4 times its size. So when NOL bought over, invested into APL as the investment, and NOL of course is the investment, there was major backing from the investment arm of Singapore government, which is your Temasek. So when NOL bought over APL was 4 times the size of NOL. So it was a big acquisition, and they did that in 97. 2000 APL Logistics was formed by renaming ACS, and I joined in 2000.
We will come back to your journey of 20 years with APL Logistics. But just for the benefit of the students and the audience, what are the traits and qualities you think one should have to excel in logistics and shipping industry?
Okay.
Or what you had?
Yeah.
When today you're a CEO of a company and you have seen 25 years almost a long journey.
Yes.
Right, you did from 0 to 100. So you have climbed. It's a matter of slowly, step by step. What are those traits and qualities you think?
I think again a question I get asked often, but I think it's a very important question as well, because as the new generation steps into the corporate world, many have these doubts. How is the journey? How long is this journey? When can I become to your level and all that, right? So I think most important is people have to be practical. Right, they need to have patience. I think the initial 5 years, I would say, is all about learnability. Right, you have to learn a lot. You have to understand, because working when you're studying, it's a different perspective. But moment you come into the industry, especially in logistics, it's all about how do you manage versus various stakeholders. Right, so what you're taught in the college is very different from how you manage your peers, how you manage your bosses, how you manage your customers. Right, and especially in logistics,
people handling skills,
right? How good are you as a team player? Initially as a team player. Once you become a good team player, I think you qualify to be a good team leader. So I think there is no hard fast rule that this is how the progress needs to happen. But I think the initial years focusing on learning, not just focusing on growth or compensation and all that in the initial stage. I think that is important, because in the first 3 to 5 years, it's all about you establishing yourself as a brand.
Right.
As an individual, what is your credibility? What is that you bring to the table?
But I think most students and most youngsters today ask what you are going to give me and what I am going to give you on the table.
Yeah, my earlier organization, APL Logistics, I used to tell this to my students, right? This used to be John F. Kennedy's statement, where he spoke from a country perspective, but I used to say this, every time don't ask what the company can do for you. Ask what you can do for the company. So at times, I think you have to look upon it as a journey, right? Certain things which are needed for you in life, like compensation, good lifestyle, good position, I think all those will eventually happen. Yeah. But I don't think if you keep that as your goal in life, like for all these things, for me, it happened over a period of time. But if you ask me, did I fix saying, in so many years I have to become this? Because I know in a couple of years back, I had one of my assistant managers, and he was like, by 30, I have to become a VP. I read everywhere, by 30, I want to become a VP. By 40, I want to become a CEO. Fine, that's okay. Maybe you will become.
You have to be competent.
You have to be competent.
Temperament. And
I think you cannot call it luck, but I would also say that sometimes in life, even in logistics or in any career, I think you just have to be the right person at the right place at the right time. Right place with the right people.
Right people.
Absolutely, very very important. Right place, right time with the right people. Right.
Yeah.
The only thing you can do is you can play your part to be the best version of yourself.
Contribute.
Right? Contribute well, be a good team player, and I think especially youngsters in our industry, I think in general also, I think today's youngsters sometimes they tend to be not so patient, right? They're not able to take negative feedback.
Gen Z.
Gen Z, Gen Alpha, you may call in whichever way. But this is a subject I'm very passionate about, because unless we talk to Gen Zs and Gen Alphas, you understand their way of thinking, right? Maybe we have to change some of our methods of working.
They are better in digital skills. My digital skills are very poor. So, what are the kind of today, let's say somebody is average or above average or good student, what kind of salaries they can, entry level salaries expected from the industry?
I think the on an average, I think anybody should be able to get around 4 lakh. Yeah, 3.5 to 4 lakhs is kind of the average.
Industry average.
Industry average.
But subject to the candidate's performance.
Of course,
and competence.
yes. Again, their verbal, their spoken skills, their verbal skills,
Communication skills.
articulation. I think people do a lot of bookish reading and all that, but when they come to an interview, I don't think many have this habit of, you prepare for an interview, research the company, what is this company all about, right? And of course, what do you, even if you're a fresher, there will be something unique you would have done in your college life or school life which differentiates. Like, for example, if not that every interview when I have been successful, but in my own experience, what I've seen is you don't need to reinvent a fake person in you, right? Just be in your state. Right, I think I've heard from many of my well-wishers also that whenever be yourself. I think that's very important, because irrespective of Vipin as a person, fundamentally he has a personality. Now, how much ever I grow in my career, how much ever I come where, that personality stays with me. I don't need to artificially change that. But of course, wherever I go, what is the value I add? What is that different I'm going? Be yourself. That is very important. But still remember that you are your best ambassador. You need to project yourself. What is that you bring to the table? Ability to take negative feedback or constructive feedback. I think the next generation of people who come in, sometimes they are not able to take feedback in a positive way, right? I don't think any boss has wrong intentions towards a subordinate. But if you don't perform, you're not able to deliver. Maybe there are, after all, he's a human being. Maybe he loses his cool at that time. Doesn't mean he has negative intentions, right? So I think people have to look at that. They have to be flexible. So I think learnability is one aspect. The other aspect is flexibility, right? And then I think in a few years, I think you have to be able to adapt, because the world is changing fast. Right? Adaptation is a very important thing. I think the other concept I have often been believing very much is the concept of VUCA, which is how volatile the world is, right? How uncertain the world is, right? It's very complex. Right? So from a VUCA perspective, there are so many aspects which are there. So there is a lot of things are evolving on a day-to-day basis.
Compared to other industries, why students or somebody has to choose our industry, shipping industry? What is your take?
Okay, the most important aspect about our industry, I would say, is it's one of the very few industries where from the beginning itself, you can actually feel global. Very few industries. You go to banking, you go to IT, anywhere. Maybe after some point of time, you may feel global. But in this industry, from the day one, you can feel you are working for a global industry. It spans across the world.
So it's a global industry.
It is definitely a global industry. You may be sitting in one corner of Chennai or Coimbatore, any part of the world. But the moment you step in, I think you are definitely part of a global industry. That's phenomenal, because I've said this in every other talk I have exchanged with anybody, that today products and services are not competing. It is actually supply chains which are competing. Right? So whether it is a product or a service, right? You buy something, you want it very fast. You buy a product, you want it fast. You buy a service also, you want it fast. So in a way, logistics is there in both places. So the relevance of supply chain and logistics is even more become very important. So if you are the kind of person who wants to look at more global things, I think if you spend a couple of years in logistics, I think from a geography perspective, you become very aware, right?
I mean, if a student is competent, capable, so they can look at a global career?
Definitely. Absolutely. I think if you look at this industry, again, one of the few industries where you don't need to be of very high qualification. Like if you look at financial services or banking, right? You need to come out of a certain college. You need to be very academically oriented, right? Or if it is an IT, you need to be a solid tech guy.
Accepts average person, above average person.
Correct. So,
converts them into a...
Correct. So if you're kind of okay, you're kind of average, your skills are okay, you're willing to go that extra mile, you're willing to put that hard work, I think definitely this industry, you work for a few years in India. Of course, you can move within India into some other ports, right? You can go to Mumbai and all. Then after that, I've seen many people, they very easily move into Dubai, Singapore, maybe Hong Kong, right? And of course, even now Far East, and now even places like Africa, right? I think, again, since the world itself from a sourcing perspective is becoming more global, right? Today, you're not buying products from your next door for a business perspective. You're buying from all parts of the world. And what is moving all these goods and services is basically logistics. business.
So now, as we are speaking now, Mr. Trump has imposed 50% taxes on India, 25 plus 25, because we are buying Russian oil. So we would like to hear from you, what is its impact on our Indian business and American cargo?
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a very interesting subject on its own. I don't know whether I have the depth to kind of talk too deep, but from my perspective, the way I say is I think the global geopolitical order is definitely changing, right? So we have to be cognizant of the fact that such a large company, such a large country in US, who is one of still continues to be a big consumption market. When there are changes in the policy level, government level, of course there are certain impact which will be seen. But for me, if I overall look at it, I think trade will have its way to find a middle path. There will be a middle path because see, again, like you can't create a supply chain overnight. Similarly, you can't create a manufacturing ecosystem overnight, right? At some point, every company, every global sourcing company realized that dependence on China is very high. So they spoke about China plus one, which everybody knows as a strategy, right? But then, which is the other place? Southeast Asia itself seems to be saturated in terms of capacity. The only other place they could look at it is India, right? And then of course you had geopolitical issues in Bangladesh. If you take the garment supply chain, which I am very, very familiar with, because of issues in Bangladesh, India definitely did have an opportunity. And India did rationalize on that opportunity in a big way. But having said that, if suddenly there are high tariffs, of course in the short term it's pinching. It feels difficult. But then the question or the thought we should think is that where else will they go? If they impose 25% on India, they are not again happy with China, right? Southeast Asia doesn't have capacity. Where will his products come from? And ultimately, the end consumer in US is going to pay more for if he sources at this tariff. So I think some of it is maybe geopolitical posturing, you can call it. I think trade will find a balance of its own.
But as on date, did it have any impact on the volumes?
Not really. I've not seen. Yeah, there are some business sentiments which say production could be affected, sourcing from India could be affected. Products which go from India predominantly, they could have.
No, they have actually voted and made it a 90 days moratorium now. They have yes, we've heard of 90 days again.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in trade, in business, in personal life, you have controllable factors, you have uncontrollable factors.
Okay.
I don't think you can influence any control on what is happening this side. So let's just focus on what is controllable is what I would say. Of course, we'll have to look at, see, for example, if the 25% tariff stays and if manufacturing sourcing comes up from other countries, there are Mexico, for example, picks up or Africa picks up, right? India may need to look at how can you be more competitive on cost and also I think people have to just focus on operational efficiency, how can you improve your cost to serve, right? Cost of doing business we need to kind of focus on.
We'll come back to logistics and shipping in a while. I also heard a rumor that you're an animal lover and you're an ardent lover of animal welfare, etc. If you can throw some light on, it's very important that we also respect environment and animal wildlife.
Yeah, so thanks for asking that. Mostly I'm in official forums, so formal forums, so it's all about work and business and all that. But yeah, you test the passion part of it, right? And I think this will be another topic which will be interesting for youngsters because today I hear a lot of youngsters talking about.
I'll tell you why I asked this because it happened. My nephew found one tortoise something and he brought it home and I didn't know what to do with it. The first person for me to call is Vipin and say, Vipin, I have a tortoise here, a small baby tortoise or turtle, whatever it is. What should I do with it? I was thinking for a time whether we are doing any violation of any regulations and let us.
No, I mean animal welfare, wildlife and nature in general I've been very passionate about. From the younger days, I've had pets from my young days. But of course, as I grew up, although I think the initial phase of my career, the work really took over me. I don't think I was able to do much. But now I think I've consciously trying to spend time on animal welfare. So I do a lot of work around community dogs, right? So the indie dogs, which are community dogs. I work with multiple organizations in Chennai. I'm closely associated with the Blue Cross of India. You've got the BMAD, which is the Besson Memorial Animal Dispensary. I closely work with them as well. So we do a lot of projects there towards sterilization of animals, vaccination of animal, stray dogs, community dogs, and then of course any rescues are there, injured animals. Because I think fundamentally the wildlife and nature is of course the other part. But I think what is very important for me in this is because I think there is something which should, I at least believe that there should be something which is beyond you as a purpose in your life, right? I think your family of course becomes your number one priority. Then you have your profession which pays your bills and all that. But what is that which keeps your inner self satisfied and you feel a sense of belongingness and you sense of giving? I think that passion everybody needs to find. For me, that has been animal welfare, right? So I have very close, and I think the even for younger children or the next generation who are growing, we speak so much about global warming, we speak so much about environmental degradation, but we only speak, we hear. Maybe we'll feel a pain, but can you do something to alleviate that pain within yourself, right? Maybe you want to, it's like you say, maybe plant a tree, fine, it's a small gesture. I think I always resonate with Gandhiji's words when he said that you should be the change you want to see in this world. Be the change you wish to see in this world, because we all want change. Today global warming and pollution, all the degradation happening, right? We all listen, we all speak about it, but are we doing in a small way? Are we doing something in our households about it? We keep talking about plastic, but do we do anything to reduce plastic usage in our home? No, right? We talk about, animals are suffering, fine, okay, maybe the dog next door, you can give some biscuits. If it's hurt, you can take it to a doctor. It's a very important way. Today when you're talking about youngsters not able to grow well, they don't have a good upbringing, parents are not able to, there's mobile phone addiction and all. Please take your children outdoors, right? Put them into some volunteering activity. I think it's very popular abroad where families go volunteering. Social service, about animal welfare and all that. But I think anything like this will keep the next generation going.
We'll come back to logistics now. So how was your journey 20 years in APL?
It's a beautiful journey. That's the journey which made me, the organization which created whom I am today, right? And I keep telling everybody that if you sometimes check my blood, maybe there's a lot of blue in the blood because 20 years is not a small growth, right? I joined as an assistant manager in 2004, and when I stepped out, that was I moved through 8 positions, and I became the country head and MD for APL Logistics. Right. It's a great company, an excellent organization, which was initially APL, which was a US company taken over by NOL. It's an organization very firmly
NOL
rooted.
is Singapore based.
NOL is Singapore. Company very well rooted in terms of its operations excellence, right? It's a company which taught everything I know about how well do you execute a global supply chain. Right? APL Logistics perhaps had the best of clients in terms of when you look at the global retail supply chain, and the retail supply chain is very complex. You've got operations maybe in 15-20 countries. Every country you've got hundreds of stores, right? For all these stores you are buying, and all these countries you are buying from maybe another 15-20 countries. So look at the end customer base, look at your sourcing base. All this is brought through together by a supply chain which is engineered in such a way that one garment in a store is short, it triggers an order in your supply chain, and then somebody starts manufacturing a garment, he ships it to the nearest CFS, somebody stuffs it, somebody again ships it to destination, it is devanned at the destination, finally that garment comes back to the shelf, right? So an APL, I think, has been in the APL Logistics was always in the forefront of that kind of supply chain. A great organization. I learned a lot. I worked with some excellent bosses, I think, whom I am.
A lot of technology was also adopted.
Lot of technology, absolutely. I think the order management systems which APL Logistics had were among the best. I've seen they were in the forefront of all that, and it's been a great journey. Of course, as part of APL Logistics, I was also privileged to see APL Liner working very closely. Again, a great shipping line, one of the largest container lines in those days. Very strong processes, very strong. And customers used to pay a premium if they wanted to use a APL Liner because of the service consistency and
Quality.
the assurance of service. So great organization, great journey, and of course 2020 I decided it was time for me to move on, look at something else.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, how is the St. John's happen? Now you are at the steering wheel of St. John's, and just give us some perspective about how your erstwhile the holding company took over St. John's and through NCLT.
Yeah, I think yes. I think St. John was a culmination of my own. I would say my own search for what I do next. Right. So when I left APL in 2004, around September, I think I was. I wanted to take it more like a sabbatical, right? I kind of decided that I had to close one chapter very clearly in my professional life. Then I have to look for a new chapter in my life. So from that perspective, when I took a sabbatical, one of the first companies to approach me was St. John Freight Systems. Of course, it's a 44-year-old company based in Tuticorin, a very big company, very homegrown company, very made in India,
Right.
grown in India kind of company, indigenous company, but went all over the world. At some point had offices yes, absolutely. It had offices all over in many continents, right? It went through its own certain business challenges, but in 2023 Jan, I think the new promoters took over. So the Oman-based promoter group took over the organization, and I came on board exactly a year back. So that was around 2024 September is when I kind of joined in. So almost going to be a year now. And when we are we operate the largest and the only ICD in Tuticorin. We've been the market leader for the last 10 months plus in terms of volume. Plus, of course, apart from that, we are into customs clearance, transportation, freight forwarding across Pan India. Many locations. We also have a very strong Middle East operation. We are based in, we have own operations in Saudi, in Oman, in Bahrain and Kuwait. In the brand name is Global Corp Logistics. So that's technically our parent company, and it's been a great journey so far. And I think the company has come strength to strength.
In fact, if I'm not mistaken, even global promoters are Indian.
Yes,
based in Oman.
Absolutely. So I think our promoter family is very well from India. They are a family from Coimbatore, and in fact our chairman, Mr. Pediswamy, he went to Middle East to work, and he himself is an inspiration for many of us. Somebody who went to work to Oman and then created an enterprise of his own. He contributed, and then today it employs thousands of people, many of them from India, gives livelihood to people from India in the oil and gas space. Of course, we are also into hospitals, so well-being and hospitals is another segment we have. And the third focus area is logistics. So we will continue to grow very aggressively in logistics. We are not just going to be a Tuticorin or a South-focused player. We are already pan-India, but we will grow that. We will eventually become a more 3PL supply chain focused company, primarily focused on Middle East and Indian subcon. But then we have partners and agents across the world who will support us to grow our global aspirations.
I'll just ask little rapid fire questions.
Sure.
When was your first big career break?
APL Logistics,
2004.
2004. Yes.
You would have traveled a lot during your stint in logistics and shipping, right from assistant manager to your travel. Generally, which is the country you love? Apart, I know you love India, but
I think I like Hong Kong. For some reason, I like Hong Kong. Although I like
noodles?
no, not Chinese.
I think you are a
noodles.
vegetarian.
I am a vegetarian. In fact, Hong Kong is one of those places where you get Indian food very easily. And even when I compare Singapore, although I do like Singapore, I've been to Singapore many often. For some reason, because of ease of travel, availability of nice cuisine, Indian food also you can get. I kind of find the Hong Kong culture quite nice, and so of all the travel locations I've gone,
Chinese will be very happy to hear that.
I've got some wonderful friends in Hong Kong. Many of my colleagues are there.
A lot of ship management companies are in Hong Kong.
A lot of ship management companies as well.
My friends from Chennai and marinas, they're all in Hong Kong.
Right.
So Hong Kong is also a huge base for Indians. So how big is your family?
Yeah, so of course my parents, they are back in Kerala. My dad had a second retired tenure, so he's after his retirement he did another stint at Cochin Airport, and then he's now very well at home. Of course, he's also an animal lover like me, so he spends a lot of time on that. And then of course it's my wife, and I've got one daughter. Her name is Mitali. Wife's Pavitra. Mitali is in 9th standard. She's in Church Park in Chennai.
So your dad and mom now they settled in LAP?
They are settled in LA.
Again, I heard Cochin Airport is now power-wise, they're neutral and green because the entire power is now through solar, alternate energy source, and they don't consume anything from the grid.
I can give you something interesting as well. Of course, we'll talk about Cochin Airport because it's an airport my dad worked for almost 10 years. So Cochin Airport is Cochin Airport is the world's first airport to be energy neutral. So it was the world's first airport. I mean, I think it's we should put it on record, right? The world's first airport to be solar, 100% on solar, and in fact, any given point of time they have 20% excess which they are feeding to the KSEB grid. So that's a very important kind of thing. And I'm also happy to say St. John ICD in Tuticorin is now the first ICD in South India to be energy neutral. We have 150 kV solar plant which is now functional. In fact, I don't even know if there is any other ICD, any other CFS or ICD pan India which is 100% neutral, energy neutral. But I am very confident across South we are the only ones who have 150 kV capacity. So we are also now started producing electricity. We are feeding back to the grid as well.
You've been a great supporter of Indian Institute of Logistics, IIL, for a long time. You've been delivering a lot of guest lectures. You've been meeting students. I think some of the students were your interns and all that. Few words, your thoughts on Indian Institute of Logistics, IIL.
I think I can't talk about IIL unless I talk about PK as a person as well, right? I think my association with IIL goes back 17, 18 years, right? Since it started. Remember, I took the initial batch of few students. I took some classes. I think I've always liked interacting with the younger generation, giving back. For me, the feeling of giving back to the next generation of people, whether it is counseling them, whether it is giving them education, whether it is sharing your knowledge and experience, I've always done that. So I think IIL has been a great platform. I don't think there is any institute in India which can talk with this sense of pride that, and it's no small feat that last 17 to 18 years IIL has kept, growing as an institution. Of course, there have been a lot of difficult times. There have been ups and downs. But I think IIL is a great platform. I have seen some wonderful students coming out of IIL, coming to good positions, right? It continues to churn quality of people. And I'm sure, IIL will always, irrespective of whatever is out there as competition, I'm very confident IIL will have a niche of its own because of all the experience, gained over the years.
Yes.
And of course, with Director Ramya in lead now, I think she's definitely, taken on the mantle from you. She's really pushed it to the next level.
She's very well committed, dedicated. I keep calling her next Mother Teresa. Thank you so much for taking your time on a Saturday. But this is not the end. We want you to go now because it's lunchtime for you and we don't trouble your lunchtime. But we'll definitely catch you again. We'll continue the conversation. We'll keep evolving new conversations over a period of time. So we'll keep troubling you once in a while. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been my honor and privilege to be on this channel.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.